everybody. This is James and Praagh and Life After Death and Beyond with my dear friend Kellee White. Hello,
Hi,
Kellee White.
James. Hi, everybody.
I've been looking forward to seeing you because I didn't see you for a couple of times.
I know you've been busy.
Yeah, you've been traveling and you've been doing dissertation, being around someone's dissertations and all other kind of fun stuff. And you missed the tornadoes in your area, right? There were tornadoes.
Yes, but thank you to you because you gave me a big shout out warning. And I appreciated that, by the way. I changed the way I drove home. So thank you.
It was right in the path. So you missed it. Good. That's good. Very good.
Yes.
I got to say, I was talking to someone earlier about last week about you.
Oh, what were you? Please tell. Share.
You're his friend, and you know, we have a good friend when you both kind of think the same way and share the same interest and really care for each other. So I appreciate your friendship and your love.
You know, I feel the same way about you, honey.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
God for you.
Thank God for you. So today's show, I've been looking really forward to sharing this with everybody. Seance stories. So seance stories is my 40 years. And Kellee, how many years you've been working as a medium now?
20
years. Mm-hmm. We're going to share some of the. I have books full of these readings, and I just remembered some of them. I'm sure they'll come to me, but there are some significant ones. And Kellee, you have lots of stories as well.
I do, and I have a grandfather that would hold seances. Yes.
Yeah, so you tell us about that history. Yeah. And I know you have tell everybody the definition for seance.
Okay, so because everybody's like, what is a seance? So a seance is an attempt to communicate with spirits. So the word seance comes from the French word for session. Did you know that?
I knew it was a French derivative, but I didn't know it was for session. That's very interesting.
And it means to sit, because isn't it interesting? We call the people that come into something sitters.
Sitters or a sitter.
Really interesting. And so a typical seance involves a group of people sitting around a table. And sometimes it will include a medium who will have the ability to communicate with the spirits and relay messages to their loved ones.
And in the old days, or on old movies, when they had a seance, there was a great British movie called Seance on a Wednesday afternoon. Did you ever see that?
No, but I will.
It's a good one. It's a British movie from the 60s. Very interesting. Seance on Wednesday afternoon, pretty much a classic in England. And typically, they would depict seances with people sitting around a table holding hands.
Yes.
And that's what, they used to do that. Yes. But you don't have to do that. But they depict it that way. You don't have to. I guess they want to blend the energies of everyone together. And it's interesting that they would do things that way. Mm-hmm. So, and also in physical mediumship, they used to sit in kind of a circle, if you will, or in the living area. Mm-hmm. And they'd sit down after a meal, didn't have a radio. Well, they might have radio, no television, maybe had the radio. And they used to sit around the fireplace. And it was after supper, after dinner, and the ambers would glow. And that's where sitting in the red light when they did physical seances and the physicalness of the spirit, they'd either hear their voice, they'd go into a trance. And what used to come from that red light used to come from the ambers of the fire. That's where that originated from.
Wow.
Because, when you think about it, they had nothing to do but to sit down together and talk after dinner. And that's the first seance is sitting down and talking. And that's what it was about. So,
and I think that, people forever have wanted to communicate with their loved ones who have passed.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, as you teach, I teach, and over and over, it's always the same thing. Students try way too hard. Oh, it's not a brain game. It's not a mind thing. It's a feeling. It's this just being soft in the mind, right? And allowing that space to be filled with them, but having no expectations. Don't try to control it, because if you try to control it, it'll never happen.
Right.
You're blocking it. So the best ones are really when you just relax and let spirit take over the mind space, and impress you with thoughts, memories, feelings. That's really what it's about. So, and different types of seances as well, right? So there was some. Tell us about your grandfather, Kel.
Well, my grandfather was a table tipper. And if anybody does not know what a table tipper is, a table tipper referred to a table. The Fox sisters did this, James. Mavis was all about the Fox sisters. But a table tipper was referred to a table that was reportedly, what would happen is spirits would, go by the table. And my grandfather was actually a table tipper. And what he would do is he would go, table dance, table move, and the table would rise above like this and start tapping out letters. And
Yeah. Yeah.
questions. And in his case, my grandfather was a table tipper, golly, I mean, back in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. And he would have tables, a giant table with all of his family members. And he had 13 family members, James. 13 was a big number to do table tipping back in the day. And 13 family members would sit and he would rub his hands together and the table would rise and the table would lift. And then people would ask questions. And he did this every Sunday for years and years. People would come from all over this part of the world in Indiana to go to have one of his experiences and to get messages from loved ones. Yeah.
What was his name, Kellee?
His name was Charles Arnold.
Charles Arnold. Okay. And I assume in typical table tipping, one would be, if it goes up, then it goes down, it's a yes. And
yes.
It goes, two would be no.
Yes. Yeah. And then they would do letters too, like tap 3 times for the letter, A or B or whatever. He had a whole thing about it. Oh yeah. And it would spell out different things. And people would, I had a lot of aunts and they would also during the seance, sometimes they would read tea leaves. They did a lot of tea leaves or coffee ground. They would do that. And so it was a real spiritual experience for everybody that came. And that my mother said to me when I found out later that her father was a table tipper, I said, "Did you not want to tell me? Did you forget?" And she said, "I thought everybody did this on Sundays."
That's what she knew.
But that's what she knew.
And then she had a daughter like you that inherited some of that.
And then there you go, So I love to hear about the stories of the seances. And
really it's interesting because it would be a seance as well. The Ouija board, before the Ouija board, what would happen is they'd have letters out and a piece of paper, if you will, and they'd have a glass, and they would go to letter to letter. That's how they used to do that. That's a seance as well.
Yes.
A Ouija board is a great tool, instrumentation, and it gets like everything, if it's used with the right intention. Right. It's got such bad press because of religion and so forth.
And the movies people have made with them.
It's crazy. But I started with that very much so. I used to see when I was a kid, sometimes I'd see letters in the wall.
Really? Trying to get your attention with letters.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very interesting. I just had a hearing. I just had my annual exam. Just came back from it. And they did a hearing test on me.
Okay.
And I've always had incredible hearing. Yeah. And she said, the girl who was doing it said, "You're hearing the lowest decimals out there and the highest." She goes, "You're very strange." I said, "Thank you. I take it as a compliment."
Okay, we've never had this conversation, but they said to me, "It's odd. You can hear like the sound of a dog. You can, like the dog whistle. You can hear it." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I speak to the dead. I can hear it." But it is funny, James, that we would have that kind of oddball, energy with that.
Okay. So it's very interesting. So seance stories. And what are some? Maybe want to go back and forth.
You go ahead. You start because I know you have some great ones to tell.
Well, I just remember them. I've written books with them in it, so it's I've hard to remember them, but some stick out. This morning I was talking to my financial accountant, going over stuff and future stuff, current stuff and stuff. But because money's not, I don't really care about numbers. I don't know the numbers. Anyway, I said, "Joe, when did I meet you?" It must have been 35 years ago. He goes, "Oh, yeah, about 35 years ago." I said, "Yes, it was a seance at Marilyn Jensen's house." Now, Marilyn Jensen lived right across from Meatloaf, right down Doheny Drive, which you know of.
Oh, you betcha.
Behind the Hamburger Hamlet.
No, exactly. That area, that whole area we need to discuss.
And that medical building was there.
You bet.
Yeah. So she had a house there and I went there. And that's when I used to do readings at people's houses. I used to go to people's houses and do readings and that have 10 people and I'd read every single person I get a message to. And I didn't know any better. It might last 2 hours, 3 hours. I just want everyone to get something. So at Marilyn's house, people sit around, didn't know any of these people. But the moment I saw this man, Joe, I looked at him, shook his hand, hello. And I looked at him and said, "I know you." I said, "I feel a connection with you. I think we had a past lives in monasteries, religious." And I found that he's very religious, not overly, but, and we've always had a connection, for sure. Anyway, so I'm doing a reading and I said to this, so there's a lady named Anne here. And you know, when you sit down in a seance, you feel the energies of people, if you will. And I'm just aware of it. And that's interesting when you get that impression in your mind, and you won't let it go. It won't go until the receiver
Right.
receives it. And I'm not moving. So in your mind, you know, you get stuck right there. And Kelly, I know this happened. You won't let it. They won't let it go.
You can't. You can't let it go. It's like a dog with a bone. Yeah.
Like a dog with a bone.
Huh.
And this Anne would not leave my head. Finally, after 5 minutes, one of the ladies, Joe's wife, who was very skeptical, raised. She goes, "Anne is my grandmother," and she helped raise me. And she said, I said, "Well, she's talking about hair in a box," and she said, "I have her hair in a box."
Oh my gosh!
I was just looking at it today.
Hair in a box.
Hair in a box. Oh, come on, that's just bizarre, right?
That's hysterical.
Hair in a box. Yeah. So that was an interesting one. Another great one. This is a funny one. It was so funny. I was going to do a Broadway show called Houdini with Hugh Jackman starring as Houdini. And it was going to be written by the really well-known writer in LA and television and movies. And a friend of mine said, you know, they're looking for the man, Stephen Schwartz, who did Wicked.
Oh, yeah.
Godspell.
Yeah.
Pippin. Not a bit a fan of his music for a long time. And Stephen Schwartz is going to write the music. And it's going to be Houdini's work with the supernatural. And he used to be involved with Marjorie, the medium up in Massachusetts. And that's Houdini did. So Stephen kind of wanted to have the whole sense of what mediumship was. So I was introduced to him. And he's a nice man. A little, you know, up there. Oh, hi. And he said, can you share with him? Sure. But the best thing is I'm doing a seance, I'm doing a demonstration in New Jersey. Why don't you and your wife come to that seance, that demonstration, and you can see me work as a medium, because he'd never seen a medium. It was okay. So he comes to this hotel we're at with like, I don't know, 200, 300 people. And in the middle of it, he's sitting right in the front row. A gentleman comes in for this lady in the audience, his wife. And he said, it was so funny. And I love working back east because the New Jersey thing, I can do that. Because this man is here. He says, my name is Joe. My name is Joe. And I want to speak to Marilyn. Marilyn. It was Mary. Mary. Well, Joe and Mary's coming. And he's about, I think he was like 67 years old and gruff kind of guy. And he's all about the house, taking care of the house. And, you know, you just got new paneling in the front deck. But someone, you know, got to be careful because that guy kind of, you had to go to 2 different people to ask for about, you know, to get someone to do it. And this lady said, she goes, yes, that's exactly right. Oh, my Joe. And he goes, you know, that damn Jim down at the station, down at the mechanic shop, he overcharged you for those plugs, the spark plug. He goes, he did a bad job. You know that. She goes, yes. He goes, they were really rotten. I'm glad you're getting that taken care of. And she goes, yes, I did. I took the rotten ones and I have them right here in my bag. And she pulls out.
God.
The best spark plugs.
Wow. That's up there with the hair in a box.
So obviously they spirited that because probably Steve made
Totally.
So that was just pretty amazing.
Wow.
At the end of that, I have to get off the corner of the hotel room and get back to the green room there. And people are running after me. I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I get back to the green room, and Stephen Schwartz comes in and he kneels down and bows.
Wow.
And he really was impressed with that, which I was impressed. And he ended up writing a song for the musical he wrote it based on my life.
Wow.
I went to his New York apartment and to listen to he wanted me to hear the song he wrote. And it was so weird, a surreal experience. I've had some weird ones. He goes, James, come on, I want to play this, see if you like it or not. I'm like, okay. Stephen Schwartz. So
That's a big deal. Yeah.
He puts the director's chair. I'm sitting above him. He's on the piano. He goes, this is what I've done. He starts again. He goes, do you like it? I said, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Oh.
And he talks about my experience as a kid and the whole meeting. And it was a good song and it would have been great. But Hugh Jackman pulled out because he was having creative differences with the writer or something. That's what so it never was made. And it would have been a great show. Houdini would have been a great one. But isn't that a story?
That's a wild story.
That's a wild one.
My goodness. Oh, God.
Yours,
well, I'll tell you, like you, when I first started, I would go to people's homes.
Yeah.
Like you, I'd go to people's homes. And I walked into this home. It was on Beverly Drive and in Beverly Hills. That whole area is very, there's a lot of, I don't know.
There's a vortex of some
There's a
kind.
vortex of energies there. And there were a lot of things that would happen in these areas and in these large homes. You know, they all had a lot of history, right? Oh my God. So I walked in, I got called in to help with a family that was having trouble with their children. And so I got called in, not knowing what I was walking into. And I walked into this giant gates, you know, the kind of gates like, oh, open up. And I walk in and you could feel the energy. Like the energy was palpable of intense. And I walk in and I see this long table. And I could feel when I walked in, James, I felt the energy of this table. And I knew something had gone on in this house. And I you know, this kind of thing starts happening. I start moving. And I said, before I even saw the children, I said, did something happen, go on in this table, in this house? Well, tell me about what went on. And she said, well, when we bought the house, we kept the table. Isn't it lovely? And I said, oh, it's lovely. Did something go on in this house? Like, I get the beauty of the table. I'm just curious, ma'am, what happened here? You know, because I'm like the table's ready to lift, you know, what is going on here? And she said, well, the owner of the previous owner of this house, it was like one of those Hollywood legends.
Sure.
He used to always have seances with that table, James. And so what I started seeing were the seances that were happening. Even though they had happened years before, I could start to see it and feel the energy. And then I looked up. And when I looked up, I saw dancers, ballroom dancing above the table. I've told you that. It was the wildest thing. And I said, oh my gosh, they're ballroom dancers here. And she said, oh yes, this is where they ballroom. They had the big parties. And then I said, wait a minute. Is your son communicating with one of the ballroom dancers? And she said, well, it's really funny you say that. He took up ballroom dancing. And I said, I'm going to tell you why he took up ballroom dancing. Because of these guys are dancing here. They don't know that time has moved forward. It was one of the strangest moments because this was new in my life. But I had to, as you have taught me, you know, even in those days, James, I had to go with the flow. This is what I'm seeing. This is what's happening. And they ended up, the child ended up, and then I said something about speaking Japanese. I said, what? And there's Japanese people here. And she said, oh, yes. And she said, my son speaks fluent Japanese. They were not Japanese. Okay, here we go. So it's interesting how the energy of that house still was there. And I was back at that house several times and stranger things happened each time. It was like out of the movie Stranger Things, that TV show. It was stranger and stranger and stranger to the point where it was like one day I went to go get my car. My car had been parked in the front. Never made that mistake again because it got twisted. The car got twisted. And the sound of my car, the music, you know, when you turn on the radio, everything had broken off. It snapped. And I said, okay, I get it, house. I'm not coming back. You don't have to tell me twice. I mean, it was really, have you ever been in a house like that where you just go,
I'll tell you.
what? Okay.
You reminded me of that area.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that area, I'm telling you.
Beverly Drive. I was invited to a place. This was years ago. And they've had a lot of trouble in the building of this house. And it was one of those big mansion things, whatever. But the gate, and it was on Beverly Drive.
There you go. I'm telling you, that's a vortex.
It's a vortex. And I went to this house, which is like different stages of being rebuilt or this or that. And I walked in and it felt really weird. It felt really weird.
So
I felt like the energy is upside down, and I will describe it.
Yes.
And I said to them, she said, every contractor that tries to build here never finishes, or he'll put part of a part of the ceiling. Next day walks in, it's gone. Or put a light on the wall. Next day comes, it's gone. It's down with the wall. Things screwdrivers missing, tools were missing. Things went across the room. It's like, wow. And what happened was, this is so weird. What happened was, I said, well, there's something about downstairs. And I said, this is very, very weird, but I'm getting, whoa. And there used to be, I said, there's a woman, I think it was a woman or two women, I'm not sure, but they died in this house. And they go, well, we don't know about that. And I said, well, that's what I'm getting here. And and things are not resolved yet.
Yes.
They're not resolved yet. And that's why they're trying to get your attention that something deeper is going on here. I said, there's a basement here. Now, there are no basements in
No.
those houses.
They do not have basements here.
House. I said, and I know that, and they weren't speaking to me, right? They weren't not right away, but I knew I was called to clear the house, and I've rarely done those things, but this is a real
Right.
strong one. And that mediums and psychics and people trying to, and so I said to this person, I said, how many contractors have you had? She goes, oh, we've had about 6. And then have all strange things happen to them, car accidents, or someone would die, or weird things happen to them. Their tools would be gone, all the weird stuff, and things would fall, and they'd put a whole like second floor on and have to be like messed up the next day. The beam would come down. I was like, what the so I said, oh, there's a basement. She goes, well, that's so weird. There is a basement. I said, there was a doctor that lived here. She goes, well, I don't know about that. So I said, there was a doctor that lived here, and I think that there was some he held women captive down in the basement.
OMG.
Problem, and I think they were trying to make that. So she said, I said, would there be anyone around who could, validate that? She goes, yes, I think so. Can you wait here? I said, I'll wait here. So she went down, or he went down, whatever it was. I think it was a woman. Went down two houses down with a neighbor that lived there their whole lives and knew the neighbors. And sure indeed, there was a man who was a doctor who lived there, who left about maybe 10 years ago. I think that these were the women. I think the women were either killed there.
Wow.
And I think that maybe it was just one woman. It was a death. And it was, that's what happened.
And you think that's why the energy was so
unsettled? Trying to find out. So I was like, well, that's what I'm feeling. And 2 remarkable things happened. Like I never thought of it. I walked out and she goes, thank you. I said, you're welcome. She'll be okay. And I've sent her the thought that now we know. And that's all you can do. And, move on now. Anyway, and as I was leaving the house, walking out of the front door, walking down the sidewalk to my car, a big planter on the roof falls down on the roof on the side.
Onto the right. You're missing the car. It missed you.
No, it missed me. I was already at the car. It was almost like, okay.
I'm telling you, they don't want you in.
No.
You gotta go. That's where, James, it's important to read a room. Time to go.
And the Ghost Whisperer was very interesting because but a couple of phenomena happened there. And I knew we would because the editors picked up when they were doing the editing of the show, the first 4 episodes, there were these strange lights and there were images. It was spirit. And they were freaked out. And I was called into the edit base. That's just spirit. We picked up the phenomena. Of course, it's going to be here. And they were like, huh? It was a real education that everybody worked with. I educated all of them because none of them knew anything about it. Like, I said, no, it's okay.
Oh,
just
yeah.
validation, they're around. And then a couple of times people be they're called on their mark. They stayed for the lighting. Mm-hmm. And it was Jay Moore. And Jay Moore was on his mark. And then he was called away and a lamp fell right down. And thank God he just missed.
Would have killed him.
Or killed him. And Jennifer Love Hewitt had weird things happen.
Wow.
The trailer should have certain items there. They were moved when she went back in. And she was pretty psychic too. And
do you think the energies were just screwing with you? Or
I think they want everyone to know that they're around helping and that they're there.
Yeah. Yeah. That they're just to be known that they were there. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one I had was I don't think they sound real dismal ones, but these stick out. I was doing a Lilydale assembly up in upstate in Buffalo, near Buffalo, and about 700 people in this out arena. And one of the messages, you're there and you're happy, you're ready to start reading. And I remember it was a man that came through. I think his name was Walter, and he wanted to speak to some girl in the audience. And this girl said, "He's from your childhood," and she understood. And you were a Girl Scout? She goes, "Yes, I was." He said, "You were a Girl Scout." And this man was sobbing on the other side. He was crying his eyes out. And he kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It was her neighbor who lived across the street.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Abused her when she was 12 years old.
Kind of assumed that. Wow, James, that's huge. So that's an extraordinary way that spirit would have come through to brought a healing on both accounts. How did she take that?
Well, everybody was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, that is a shock because you don't expect that.
No, she was shocked. That's why you got to be open-minded to whatever happens. What's the greatest need of the spirit? What's the greatest need for you to meet? So she was shocked, but she came to me afterwards and she said, I can't tell you how great that was. I've been holding She was in her 50s. She was
Wow.
like that all that time.
Right. But think of all the people that you helped in the audience with that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just that, but
Yeah.
other people that have had those kind of experiences.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big one.
Give us one of yours, Kelly. Another one of yours.
Oh my gosh. My mom had a patient that lived in the Hollywood Hills. So this one lived in the Hollywood Hills. And for whatever reason, James, everybody thought I was a table. All right, not a table tipper. They thought I was a clearer, like of energy, like you were just talking, like clearing up the energies.
Well, you were the original fire starter.
I am a fire starter. I was that. That's true. I did do that, and I guess that's maybe how I got the reputation that I could go to this house. So I go to this house in the Hollywood Hills, and it started with all of us sitting around a table. And it's funny. It's not. It's, tell me about the house, and we're sitting there, and as we're around and it was a round table in the Hollywood Hills, a round table. And I remember looking out and seeing the beautiful view of, the Hollywood Hills, and it was just lovely. And then all of a sudden we start hearing weird noise. And I said, is that a cat? What's going on here? Like to the side, I could hear the noise. And she said, we don't have a cat. And I said, well, surely there's a cat here somewhere. Because you hear it, right? We all hear it. And she said, that's the problem. And that's why you're here. We can't get rid of this. So I started just saying prayers. I didn't know what it was. I would have sworn it was a cat. It was the strangest, weirdest. And I tried to overcome my own fears of, I didn't want to be in that house. Like that energy was so, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't want this table to fly up. I mean, that's a bit even much for me at this point. So I held the prayers, and we kind of held hands like you were talking about and said a prayer, a lot of prayers. And I felt like I needed to go because I was going to be sick. Have you ever gotten sick in a place like that where I literally was like, okay, my day is done and gone the sun. I've got to go. So I left there never.
And you feel that. It's like
totally.
It goes the opposite way.
Totally. And I said to my mom, I'm done. No more clearing anybody's space up. That's not my thing.
And did you find out who was doing it? Who was responsible for it?
I still to this day don't know. And I will tell you that they had many, many people go in to try to clear the energy or whatever. I don't think it was ever cleared. There are some spaces.
And you know why?
What? Tell me.
Could be the owners.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
I've done many of those.
Interesting, James. That might answer the question. Nobody could get this.
I've done that, and you got to be really careful how you present it, because
let's talk about that. Tell me about that.
So I've done I remember it was a couple once, and it was really, it had really weird phenomena happen, lights going off, sounds, creaking boards, the whole thing, and just weird. She'd have weird, dark kind of. Say visions, things would happen, shadow things, and weird stuff above her. And he was okay. He didn't mind anything. Well, I find out, and I didn't explain it to this way because it wouldn't have been appropriate, that he was having another life. He is having affairs with those women. He was spending gambling stuff. He was owing money to a lot of people. He was doing bookie work or races, and it was all of this energy that he was, and drugs and cocaine or something. All this energy was there. It was all swirling around, bringing that with them in the home, or creating all this stuff to happen. And that can happen that way. That space that you create, with how you behave, your thoughts.
So true.
And that was what was going. And she was very sensitive, and picking up on that, and it was just manifesting in those ways, which does happen. Wow. So, I said it in a way. I presented it in a way. I said, well, I'm not sure which one of you's been around some negative energy, or somebody who does like lots of drugs and maybe some dealing of drugs. and she was like, no. And he's like, no. I was like, and I knew it was just him. I didn't want to say,
of course not. Yeah.
It was like, and I said, well, I don't know, but those energies feel like this. And I just noticed with him at the end of this, he looked really kind of white. His face turned.
I bet he did. Yeah. Wow.
Another funny story, Kelly, with the Hollywood Beverly Hills thing, because both were a lot of celebrities. I was invited once to do a reading for Carrie Fisher.
Ooh.
Did you ever meet Carrie Fisher?
I never met Carrie.
Oh, good for you. So I was invited to do that. I said, okay, fine. And I went to her house, and it was really weird. Big iron gates. And I kept on pressing the buzzer. Said, I'm here. Who is it? It's James and Pro. Who? I said,
my gosh.
an appointment for a seance.
Right.
Oh, all right. Hold on. 10 minutes later, show me the gates. I go in. She was a real character. And it was the most incredible looking place. It was like in the 30s. It was like, wow. And I kept on getting a sense of like draperies and materials. And I just got this feeling. And I walked in, and I couldn't find her, but I walked in, and it was like dark woods but beautiful draperies. And I just felt this lady around, and that she wasn't haunting the place, but she wanted me to know that this was her house. And I just felt this lovely, I don't know, design energy and this lovely fabrics. Anyway, so met Carrie. She's a cookie. We're doing a reading. I don't think I tried to give it directions how I work. And I forget who came through. Messages in the middle of it. And she goes, I'll be right back. And she gets up. She goes to have a cookie in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cookie time.
Yeah, cookie time. And then I thought, you know what? I'm leaving. So she came back. Such disrespect to the work of the spirit. And I explained to her, I don't care who they are,
Oh, please. Yeah.
So I sat me down and said, they gave her some stuff. I knew she wouldn't listen to what they were saying.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go now. And he goes, it's a beautiful house. She goes, oh, yeah, it belonged to Edith Head.
Oh my God, who was an Academy Award winner for designer. She was, she was extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Little glasses and all that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, all right. And I said, well, I'm going to go. Yeah, okay. And when she goes to the kitchen, I said, all right. So I leave the house. I don't even think it was a thank you. I go out. I go down the long road on Coldwater Canyon.
Oh, sure.
I think at a park on Coldwater, I think. And so she's not letting me out. The gates are closed, and they're big gates. Well, do I press the button again and ask to let me out?
Right.
No. I climb over the big
No.
gate. Oh, yeah. Almost killed myself.
Oh, my God. As opposed to asking her again.
That's right.
Okay, that alone is funny.
Or they're like, oh God, it's gonna be really hard to do.
Oh my God!
You see that?
Worst nightmare. Oh, yeah, a lot of those homes, they all have the gates in. It's like a whole deal.
Yeah, it's a whole.
Wow. Thing. Oh, that's a funny story.
I used to do. You talk about table tipping in my development. I used to have developments on Tuesday nights with people come to my apartment on Banner Avenue in Hollywood, right? Hollywood and Vine, almost right by Paramount Studios where I was working. And it was a great apartment for this. There was a room upstairs, and every Tuesday night, it has people I knew, and would sit. And God, it was a great group. And I remember.
How did you guys start it? Did you hold hands? Did you?
No. We did a prayer. I was the leader of the circle. I started off, and then each one did a prayer. Okay. And we had a table, and we gently put our fingers on the table. Yeah. Right? And what happens is the spirit people will kind of, in a way, how can I explain this? Dematerialize the molecule, change the molecular structure of the table. And that's how it's able to happen. So when you put your hands on your fingers, you'll feel these waves coming through you and waves. And so you'll feel the table like waves. And just allow it to happen. Just allow it. And all of a sudden it started walking. So I go up and down and up. I swear to you, it walked out of the room. And someone's holding it and walked right out the doorway. I'm like, whoa. And I'm still holding on. One of the person like, whoa, it's not going to go down the steps. I can't. And that was it. It just went out the doorway. And that was it. Then all of a sudden, over.
Wow.
So that was pretty wild.
What did everybody think of that one?
Oh, everyone's like, blown away.
Right?
Yeah. I still have that table. It's in my garage. I still have it.
Well, we should, next time I come out there, we should do something with that table, because that would be really fun to do, just to see the energies of the table.
Or we can do it, we'll do one of these podcasts. I'll have a table here.
Okay.
We'll do it that way and bring a spirit that way.
That would be great. I think people would love that. I mean, it's fun to do demonstrations like that.
I can do it. It's a small enough table. I can do a demonstration here.
Wow.
But I kept that table for that very reason. And it was used in seances in England, by the way.
How did you get said table?
My said table was given to me by Sarah Stevenson, who was a British healer that I met. I met Sarah Stevenson back in the early 90s. My teacher, through Brian Hurst, my teacher.
Yeah.
He knew Sarah from I don't know how, with different circles. And she lived, well, yeah, this is another weird story. I was with my friend Marianne for Christmas, and she had a house in Pacific Palisades right by the water. So we went down to the edge there, the cliff, and I looked down and said, "Oh, there's a trailer park. My friend Sarah lived right there." She goes, "Oh." Well, then 2 months later, it was all gone.
Yeah.
I thought of Sarah. So it's very interesting. She, that we did. She gave me the table. It was hers, and she passed it on to me.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was
great.
a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, James. Wow. Well,
Give
thanks
us
for
one of yours.
another one of mine. Let me think for a second. Another one of mine would be, I will tell you, when I moved to Wisconsin, one of the people that I know here had a table, and they said, Kellee, we've done seances here. And I was like, really? On that table, you've done seances. Would you like to try one? Well, just for the moment, I had this person sit with me. So she sat here and I sat here, and at her place where the table had been used. And James, table didn't lift up, but you could feel the energies and of the spirits. And then next thing you know, I'm giving her messages, she's giving me messages, and it was really such a, oh God, it was a wonderful experience for me, because it was right when I had moved in this area and I didn't know what to expect. But so when I got to meet this woman and just to have the experiences of it was just extraordinary. Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think I just got in my head. Thank you. What's her name? Marjorie? What's her name? No, what's her name?
Yeah. Yes.
So I just got that the reason why it works really well with a table is because your focus is on the table. It's not in your head.
Ah, yes.
With a mind blocking, you're just putting your hands on the table. So your focus is there.
Yes.
So they can come through easier.
Thank you for that one. Yeah. She's very handy.
Very handy. I have a good story. So,
okay.
We just had Mark Ireland on the show, who's about Helping Parents Heals organization, and he was talking about different things. And I looked at his YouTube beforehand, and we had very, very similar circumstances happen. So he was talking about his son passed falling off a mountain, and it was the whole thing. And I remembered a story that happened with me that was actually on Oprah, and I'll tell you about this one. It's very interesting. So I did a reading for Sue and Don Raskin, and that was back, and I lived in West Hollywood. I just finished getting divorced, and I had no place to live. And I went to these guys in his back apartment, and I used a studio, and it was a very depressing time in my life. I remember that. That was a very interesting time. So I remember I did readings there, I did seances there, and it was small, so people come over, and I never knew anything about these people. They came to the door, and as soon as they walked in the door, I thought, "Oh, he must be ill, this gentleman," but he wasn't. And they sat down, and I was able to right away. I said, "There's a young man here," and I said, "And he's passed over." And I said, "He's a son of yours?" "Yes." And I forgot what his name was, but I got brought through his name, and I said, "This is the Japanese thing you're talking about." He's talking about Japanese, yes, and it's so weird, but Mount Fuji. I said, "Oh, he fell off Mount Fuji." And they said, "That's exactly how he died."
Oh my gosh.
Exactly how he died. I said, "He's so loving of you both." And I can see why. You're just lovely people. He just loves you. He wants to tell you that love never dies. And this is on YouTube somewhere, by the way, people can watch this. And it never dies. And the Oprah episode. And it was just a great message. It was talking to me about the helicopter ambulance, and they had to fly him to a medevac helicopter, and so they're going to get the invoice for that. We didn't get that. We don't have that. Well, he's just saying sorry about that. You have to pay for that. And then he said, "And do you understand about the picture at the base of the mountain?" He said, "There's a picture." "No, we don't know about that." I said, "Well, they took a picture of him and the team at the base of the mountain." "No, we don't understand that." And this is where I think dog with a bone.
Right.
I can't let this go.
Yep.
Saying, "You've got to remember this, please." At the base of the mountain to him. And there's a message for you on this picture. I don't know what it is, the message is, but I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. It's a message for you in this picture. Just please, if you don't know what it means now, just remember this. And that's what we do when people can't remember. Just remember it. That was it. Nice people. About a month later, I got a call from Sue. Oh, James, you're never going to believe this. I said, well, what happened? She goes, well, we just got the invoice from the medevac, the helicopter that flew their son
Wow.
to the hospital. And she goes, and then 3 days later, we got back all his equipment, his climate equipment and his camera equipment.
Oh my.
They had, the everything for the camera equipment.
Oh my.
And they said, it gets better. We had the camera, it was filming the camera, and we got it developed. The old camera. And they said, there was a picture of our son at the base of the mountain, smiling.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
Wow.
So then I did Oprah in, I don't know what year it was, but she was in the cattle problem. And I was in somewhere in Texas. And she played the devil's advocate, which is just lovely.
That was a big problem. I was in the beef industry at that time. It was a big problem.
And she was an interesting person in those days. I think she's changed. But we're backstage, we're waiting for her all day because she was in court all day. And she comes in and she comes out, and I was nervous because all white women, obviously born in Christian women. I'm like, oh God, I got to read the audience. It's gonna be really tough. And then she comes in and I said, hello, who's I? And Katie, the producer, said, so James is going to be preset and you're going to introduce him first. He goes, oh no, it's my show. I should be first. I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Oh, interesting. And then so she goes out and goes to directions. Here's this book, Talking to Heaven. It's number 1 in the New York Times best-selling list. I know how I got it because it wasn't on my show. I'm like,
oh my.
So, interesting session. I had 12 people in the audience who all had incredible readings. One of them was Sue and Don Raskin.
Oh,
so it comes across in the show. And something about, you did something with a mountain and the Fountain. Would you tell us about that? So I did. And she goes, and then they had the picture developed and she had a copy of it. She goes, and here it is. And she goes, there's a message on the picture, which I'd never seen. And there it was with their son and all the team. And in the corner it said, I love you. Burned in the picture. And she goes, and I had never seen it. I was like, wow. And she goes, how did that get there? I said, and she goes, well, I'll give you that one.
I'll give you that one.
Thanks.
Wow, James.
But it was really amazing phenomena that and I'd never seen the picture. I mean, that was a great one for everyone around the country.
It's an extraordinary story.
That happened. That was a real good.
Wow. Do you think that would have been a contract that you would have had from the other side to bring that through? Because it was brought through on the Oprah show.
Kelly, it must have.
It's such a large, extraordinary story.
They can impress because of photography.
Yeah.
And obviously that loving energy is so strong. And I'm sure he had help, obviously, with materializing that on the photo. And that was pretty good. And I hadn't seen it, which was really kind of cool. So that was really funny. So
you've had a fascinating life.
Stories, but I'm not going to say them. But
you've had a fascinating life. I mean, really fascinating here.
Fascinating life.
My
God. And when people say, "What's your favorite reading you've done?" I'm like, no, I don't remember all. You just don't remember them. No. But the one I think you know this one is like I do remember because it's number 1 in my mind. Years ago, I was working in Maui at the Performing Arts Center. They were doing a demonstration.
Yeah.
About 200 people in the audience, and they were very slow to respond. It's like, why? You heard my direction. Oh, Maui. Oh, Maui, wowie. I got it.
Oh, how funny. Yes.
So they started laughing and brought the energy up, thank God. And then all of a sudden, as I'm getting to the end of the evening, some very good messages. But at the end of the evening, I see a little spirit girl on the stage, and she's in a pink outfit, jumping up and down, and pigtails, pink ribbons. And, I want to talk to my mommy and daddy. I want to talk to my mommy and daddy. It's my birthday. She was 3 years old. I want to talk to my daddy. She was jumping up and down. I said, there's a young girl here, pink dress. Today is her birthday. She has white blonde hair. And looking at it, nobody to the very last row. And a couple raised their hands and they stood up. Like, yes, that's our daughter. And she said, cry thinking of it. And the guy was a real buff guy, was a gym guy. And she kept saying all this stuff. They understood it. And she goes, Daddy, thank you for the angel wings, Daddy. I love them. The dude, the man, everyone turns around. He takes off his t-shirt. Buffy guy turns around, and on his lats are 2 big angel wings
Wow.
that he tattooed for her for her birthday, which was that day.
Wow. Did everybody just lose
Everyone
it?
freaked. Everyone like, and that was it. I couldn't do anything after that. Everyone was so emotionally.
Oh,
Everyone was
yeah.
crying. We were all crying.
Oh, my God. That's something the family nobody would ever forget that. Certainly the family.
I
Gosh,
mean, it was a
changing
moment.
lives.
It was a moment in my mediumship.
Really a moment. Gosh,
When
honey.
children come through, they're so wonderful and innocent and pure, and
Yeah.
that love is so pure, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, honey.
Wait, one more.
Okay.
I have to. I did a reading for June Lockhart once. Remember June Lockhart?
I love June Lockhart.
She was, for those who remember the show Lassie.
Well, she was in Lassie, and what was the other one with Will
Space.
Robinson? Yes. Lost in Space. Yeah.
So I did a reading for her, that same apartment, and it went really well. And then toward the end, Lassie came through.
Get out.
Lassie came through.
Lassie the dog.
Lassie the dog came through.
Wow.
So, there are many Lassies, but this one just came through. And she used to, I guess, feed it from her bag or purse. Is, oh, God, the goddamn dog. Oh! Goddamn dog. Never forget that. The goddamn dog. I was crushed because I love Lassie.
Right. Of course. How would you not? Oh,
I mean,
that's very funny.
So many hundreds of readings like that. Sort of thing.
Oh, that's a funny one, though. Lassie the dog. Oh my gosh!
I brought a lot of animals through. I brought one horse through once, and it was great. Horse came through, and I'm going to cry. And it was thanking its owner, and the owner understood this. I described the horse perfectly. I think his name was Buster or something like that. It was a very interesting name. And I said, you made a blanket for it? Yes. And I said, and you made it yourself. You crocheted this, and you put all initials on it for your horse, and the horse really appreciates it. And they have all the ribbons of whatever the horse's name was, Becky, whatever, on the mantelpiece with the reception. And the horse really appreciates that and appreciates the work you put in to honoring him, and made that blanket. So
wow.
Yeah. Animals are great.
They are great. Oh, honey.
Well,
You're great. That was fun.
You're great, Kelly. That was
my gosh.
Yeah, we'll do it one on the table next time.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, James. See you soon.
Bye.